Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 44 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be a little bit more entitled parents, and I know you're going to love this one. I've got to admit, these are some of the best entitled parent stories that I've come across of recent times. They all seem real and original, so this is going to be an awesome one. If you're new around here and you enjoy, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, but otherwise, sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. This story takes place a while back when I was 17. Following some abdominal pain, doctors discovered that I had kidney stones. One of them had blocked my kidney, causing it to swell considerably, so I was taken into hospital for treatment. I was placed on the teenage ward, which was a separate bay in the pediatrics ward. Kidney stones are incredibly painful, and at this point, I'd already had 2 surgeries, so I was extremely doped up on painkillers. My morphine was administered by IV, but I also had to take tablets several times a day. One night, a kid was brought into A&E with severe breathing difficulties. After being stabilized, he was transferred to the teenage ward. Because of the severity of his condition and his age, which I believe was 14, his mum, being the entitled mum, was given permission to stay overnight with him. He was brought onto the ward at approximately 1 AM and put into a bed next to mine. The noise of his arrival woke me up, and my body realized that it hadn't had any painkillers for several hours. I tried to find my call button, but could barely move due to the pain and managed to knock it off my bed instead. So I started moaning in pain trying to find it. The entitled mum flings open the curtain between the 2 beds and stares at me. I ask her to call the nurse for me, but she just stands there glaring at me. I finally get a hold of my call button and the nurse comes over. Before I can get a word out, the entitled mum starts complaining to the nurse at full volume that I'm making too much noise. I'm disturbing her precious angel's sleep, that at 17 I should be able to deal with the pain, etc, etc. I'm in tears from the pain by this point, and the other kids are waking up from the noise she's making, so the sister, the head nurse, politely tells her to shut up. I'm given another dose of painkillers and manage to doze off again, and all is well for a few hours. Come morning, my doctor comes to check on me as part of his rounds. I had a renal specialist as well as a general pediatric doctor. The entitled mum corners him before he can reach me and starts lecturing him about how I'm clearly a disturbance and he needs to sort me out. My doctor luckily is amazing and firmly but politely tells her to take a hike. A few hours later, I'm given several of my tablets to take and the entitled mum blows a fuse. She goes over to the sister again and starts complaining that I'm clearly a drug addict who's faking it for the painkillers. She starts demanding that I be transferred to an adult ward as I'm a bad influence to the other children. The head doctor overhears this and is completely baffled. He points out that the medicine I'm taking is all prescribed and I'm doing nothing to disturb the other children as I'm spending all day curled up in bed watching TV. The entitled mum changes tactics and starts complaining that the shows I'm watching are sinful and a 14-year-old boy shouldn't be next to a 17-year-old girl. I turn my TV screen around to reveal that I'm binge watching Disney movies and the entitled mum goes bright red. It doesn't stop there though, and she starts demanding that her darling boy be put into a side room for peace and quiet as the other children are too noisy. The doctor declines this request as side rooms are reserved for critically ill children and her son has now stabilized and is in fact one of those running around in the ward disturbing others. My mum came in to visit me just after this and the entitled mum attempts a new tactic by first telling my mum that the doctors are overdosing me and I should be taken off the morphine, and then telling my mum that I'd be happier on an adult ward instead of around little children. My mum tells her to get lost, which was a lot less politely than the doctors did. Luckily, the entitled mum's request to stay the second night was declined as her son was stable and he ended up being discharged the next day. I still have no idea why she hated me so much. This is just one of those ones where you read it and you just think to yourself, why? Did the mum think that because she had a child with a medical condition that she was entitled to have the whole space to herself? I don't know. What I do know though, is that I'm really glad I haven't come across a lady like this just yet. Just quickly, sorry for the formatting on this one, I'm not too sure what's happened at the start here, but it's still readable so it's fine. A bit of backstory, I played for my town's under-13s football club and I played as the goalkeeper. The game where this all unfolded was the semi-final of the cup and entitled mum's son, who was Cool Kid, was on the other team. The game finished 2-2, so we went to penalty kicks and this is where it starts to get interesting. After 4 kicks each, it's 3-3, and our team scores our 5th penalty to make it 4-3, so if the other team misses, we win. Cool Kid steps up to take it and he hits it just to my right, so I stretch my hands out and save it. Our team starts celebrating and the entitled mum's son, Cool Kid, who to be fair was very nice and took the defeat very well, came to shake my hand. The entitled mum did not like this and stormed over. She had that "can I speak to the manager" haircut and I guess she was in her mid to late 30s. The following conversation goes down. The entitled mum says, "How dare you deny my son to score and to lose this match?" And I say, that's my job as the goalkeeper. The entitled mum says, "Bullcrap," and she is literally screaming her lungs out at this point. The referee walks over now and tells the entitled mum to calm down. Then she says, "Who the F do you think you are?" The ref says, "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the pitch." The entitled mum storms off in a huff, not before screaming at Cool Kid to follow her, for which he does. Thankfully after that match, our team got pizza and I didn't see the entitled mum again. But I do feel really bad for her kid for having a mother like that. This happened 2 years ago and I still get angry when I think about it. Imagine getting that upset over an under 13's game of football. Like, I get that you want to see the team succeed and for your kid to do well, but at the end of the day, you've got to remember it's a competitive sport no matter what level they're playing at. Some entitled parents are just so far up themselves they'll just never understand. So just for some backstory, this happened in October. I broke my leg pretty badly in September, and it wasn't some dramatic falling from a roof crap. My leg got stuck between some tree roots when I was camping in the forest with some friends and twisted it so bad that the knee got very messed up. At first, it wasn't much, but after a few minutes, it started hurting so effing much. My knee was like 3 times as big as before and hurting like I got shot. Because we were in the middle of the forest, we couldn't get an ambulance, so my friends helped me get to the car and drove me to the hospital. I got some checkups and I luckily avoided getting a cast as there was no actual bone damage except for the shard of bone that had opened up in my knee. It wasn't too bad as I didn't need surgery. My leg was put in a harness or something, I don't know exactly what it's called though. I also had to use crutches for like a month. The harness was quite large, so I wore big dress pants over them. So on to the story. When I was finally able to go back to school, I go to school away from my home, so I take 2 buses to get there. I got to the bus and there was only 1 seat left, so I sat down, put my crutches on the holding thing above my head, and we drove off. A few stops later, a woman and her kid, who looked about 4 to 5 years old, came on. She scouted the seats and saw that none of them were free. Then she saw me, a large, lazy, good-for-nothing teenager. She came up to me and I knew that it was about to go down. You guys already know what me and EP and EK stand for. The entitled mum says, "Excuse me, could my kid sit down?" And I say, "Oh sorry, but I have a broken knee and I need this seat." So the entitled mum looks at my legs and says, "But you're fine. Stop being lazy and let my kid sit." I go on to say, "No, really, I broke my knee." So I pull out my leg from the dress pants, revealing the harness thing. See? Apparently this wasn't good enough for the entitled mum, and she says, "Why isn't your leg in a cast then? Stop lying and let my kid sit." She pulled on my jacket to try and pull me off my seat. So I slapped her hand off my jacket and told her to stop. The entitled kid then starts whining about wanting to sit down. The entitled mum then says, "See what you did? You effing teenagers are so rude." So I say back to her, "You midlife crisis adults are ruder. Also, you have a kid, so swearing in front of him isn't setting a good example." She then screams at me, "Don't tell me how to act in front of my child." She was full on yelling at me now, and the whole bus was looking at us. The bus driver stopped at the next bus stop and told the entitled parent and the entitled kid to get off. The entitled parent tried to defend herself by telling the driver that I was lying about a broken leg. The bus driver told her with the coldest effing voice ever that I got on with crutches, obviously struggling. The bus driver pointed at the crutches and said, "See?" And the entitled parent's face went red and she stormed out of the bus. Fortunately, I've never seen this lady again, and my knee has done a good recovery. I don't have to wear the harness or use crutches anymore. But walking still hurts a bit and my knee just sometimes gives up and does a weird click and boom, I'm losing balance. Also, this was translated from my native language to English, so I hope I got everything translated correctly. This is actually something that happens way too often. I've got a pretty similar story where I was sitting on the train minding my own business, wasn't even looking up, just playing Nintendo Switch I think. This old guy gets on, he's got a guide dog and I'm not too sure how long he was standing for because like I said I was just minding my own business. Out of every single person on this train, I am singled out by some completely random lady who screams at me to stand up because this old guy's blind. Absolutely, I think this guy should have had a seat, and had I have noticed, I definitely would have given him one, but if it was such a big deal, why didn't you stand up and give him your seat yourself instead of screaming at everybody else on the train? I just don't know where people get that kind of entitlement from. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much for 160,000 subscribers. We gained another 10,000 yesterday and we are growing incredibly. I reached out to a few of you on Discord today just to ask what you were thinking of the Entitled Parents series, just to make sure it's not getting a little bit stale, and you guys still seem to love this, so I'm going to make sure I keep pushing this out for you guys. However, I'm not going to push it, I'm still only going to do it every second day, so I need suggestions for that other day. I was thinking Nuclear Revenge, but if you have any other really good subreddits that you can think of, either let me know in the comments below or let me know in the Discord server. I appreciate all the suggestions and I look at every single subreddit that you guys suggest. But otherwise, that is that for today's video. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and I'll see you all tomorrow for another Reddit video. Bye.